Hello, 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 everyone. This is Dr. David checking in. I'm calling to you live from Ocala, Florida, at the home of my wonderful sister and my mother, checking in. I just wanted to see what everybody's doing on this fine Christmas day. And I figured what better time to check in with the extended family? What's going on? Does my screen look a little washed out? I can't tell. No, looks like I got a lot of people at home, huh? All right. So what are y'all up to today? What are y'all doing for your Christmas? Let's see if my background filter makes this any better. Is that better? I don't think that's better. We'll go back to this. You guys hear me okay? Hey, Amelia, there's Cynthia, T, Liam, Weiss Coaching, Keekin, Kazana, Kazama, Robin, and Heather, and Sarah. All right, so what's on your agenda? Hey, Kai, good to be live. You know, regeneration, rest, reset. You got it. Kicking it in Oregon. Oregon has a coast? I guess they do. Right. Kazama's asking, this year I decided to stay home and treat myself to a quiet day. Yeah, that goes out the window when you have kids, especially my kids. So while we're on for a short time, I do have to do the family thing, but I thought I'd check in with you guys. What do you guys got going on? What do you guys got any questions? Anything you want to talk about? Any plans for the Christmas? Any New Year's stuff going on? Let's see. Ilka's asking, I was going to go out to drink with the boys, but then I saw you on. Don't give up your life to hang on YouTube channel with me. Life is too short. How to plan to achieve a skill. Okay, well, it's the secret to achieving any skill is to break it down into smaller and smaller chunks and get ridiculously good at each step in the chain. That's really the secret to learning any skill. It's called deliberate practice. There will be certain skills you have aptitudes for, and you can skip steps with those many times because you have a natural aptitude. But if you want to be comprehensive, break it down into small pieces and overlearn each step. Capila saying, Happy Merry Christmas, dear bro David. Right back at you, Capil. Let's see here. Man, there's people just flooding in here. I think I picked the right time to do a live, huh? What do you think? How many of you, by the way, have heard about the healing intensive we've got coming up the weekend of January 12th? It's a virtual healing intensive. Have you guys heard about that? So this says, I'm reading my killer influence manual and watching IBD. Okay, that's like multitasking on a whole other scale. If I were you, Cynthia, I'd either read your IBD manual and watch IBD, or read your killer influence manual and watch killer influence. That might be a more useful, useful approach. Cynthia says, nope, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to do that. All right, you do you, boo. Liam tells, what are some good exercises for attuning to water energy? Attuning to water energy is all about meditating on the qualities of water and trying and attempting through imagination to stimulate those qualities in yourself. So in most mystical and energetic systems, water has a lot of qualities connected to it, but the two key ones that I see are consistent from system to system is water tends to sink and it's very cold. So the idea is if you're trying to gain rapport with the water element, you want to generate and imagine that you are made of water and that you are in a universe of nothing but water, and you're immersed in those qualities of water, and then you want to dissolve yourself into that, your spirit body, your energy body, your physical body. And that's the way you begin to build a rapport bridge between the inner elements inside of you and the external or metaphysical aspects of water. These are very common, very practiced exercises in Buddhism. They're practiced in the Barden's Hermetic systems. They're practiced in the Taoist systems with many variations. But that's where you start, right? And then as you study and you learn about the elements, and you start creating and building for yourself a lexicon, if you will, of other correspondences that are related to the water element in your world. Then when you start to build those into your meditations, every time you do a water meditation, you are also building those attributes that you've associated with the water element into your life. So it's an iterative process. When most people start, they have one or two things that they're going to use as their anchor points for a particular element. And then as they learn more and more about how the elements evolve and create certain other phenomena in the world, if you look at the Taoist system, the Taoist says the Tao gave birth to one, one gave birth to two, two gave birth to three, three gave birth to the 10,000 things. Well, the 10,000 things are the mixtures of all the different five elements coming together and creating everything else. And so as you start to build your own lexicon of what those things are and how they have a particular elemental affinity, you can start to develop those qualities in and of yourself every time you do your elemental meditations. Okay, let's see here. Okay, so you guys want to hear more about the Healing Summit. Okay, so this is actually an idea I got from one of my colleagues. This probably has to be a good 5, 6, 7 years ago. This was really pre-COVID. My friend Brent Baum, who was the creator of holographic memory resolution, one of the programs that he would offer was a 3-day healing intensive. And basically what it was is it'd be a small group of people. They would come, like I actually hosted one at my clinic. It was really fun. It was basically they would come into the clinic or whatever facility that we're hosting it at, and there'd be like in between 13 and 20 of us, and we would do self work, and he would guide us through processes, but he would actually bring each person up individually and work with them throughout the 3 days, and everybody else got to observe and watch and so forth. And so I learned a lot as I was watching Brent do that, and I thought to myself, I am never going to do that. And the reason I said that I was never going to do that was because the sheer amount of work that was involved on my end as a facilitator, but also because I just didn't see it as being a way to leverage to be leverageable. Come 6, 7 years later, post COVID, the world has changed. People are far more changed, I guess, in amount, not necessarily in a, well, I'm going to use the word maladaptive, not because I think we're all broken, but because 3 years of house arrest really did change us. And as much as we are coming on the other side of that, the world was different pre-COVID. It changed during COVID, and then post-COVID, it changed again. And so I realized that Planet David, we needed a way to help more people level up, to help more people get the help that they need. Because I know a lot of you, we do a lot of certifications. We do a lot of teaching people how to do stuff. But the vast majority of people aren't nearly as interested in a certificate as they are in getting their stuff handled and getting somebody who can help them overcome their stuff. So I thought to myself, well, back in the early days of hypnosis, I mean, we're talking like 50s, 60s, and 70s, there would be these wandering hypnotists. They would travel from town to town to town, and they would have 50, 100, 200 people, and they would do like a 1-day stop smoking thing. And they would just bring everybody in and just run people through a series of group interventions, right? And lots of people actually were able to quit smoking, get the help they needed doing those things. And I thought to myself when I first heard that model, that's really cool. I'm never going to do that. Because I'm a big believer in the ability to tailor and to give people a little bit more of a nuanced intervention. And then I saw Brent Baum, what he was trying to do, and I looked at what he was doing with his model, and I said, it's a great, it's got a big heart. I'm never going to do that. And then years, now we're coming into a year, give or take, out of post-COVID, and I'm looking at what people need. And you ever hear that expression? You want to hear God laugh, tell him your plans, or say never. I started thinking to myself, okay, how can we give more? How can we do more? How can we help people level up? And the idea came to me, well, why don't I just get a bunch of people, a small, manageable group, and for 3 days, I just run you through processes. One process after another, after another, after another. After every process, we break up into small groups. We talk about it. We talk about what happened, what didn't happen, what you wanted to happen. And we really kind of chart a course through this whole healing journey together. And I'll have 3 or 4 of my top people there as proctors and guides. And if people need specialized attention, or if they need a little extra work on something, like we're going after a level 1, and all of a sudden we got a level 10 that comes out of nowhere. We have somebody who can kind of work you through that safely. And if people need ongoing work after the intensive, like there's a whole bunch of stuff that needs personal attention. Well, you've gotten at least FaceTime with not just me, but 3 or 4 highly skilled therapists who you can continue to work with if you choose to after the summit or the intensive, if you need deeper work. And so the idea here was, it's just you and me and a small group from the privacy of your own home. So if you need to scream and wail and gnash teeth and break crockery and do whatever you do to vent or whatever, you're doing it in a safe environment. You're doing it in a place where you feel comfortable, you feel protected, and you can work through these things with me in real time through your computer, through a secure Zoom connection. And if you need extra help, then there's other avenues and things available to you. So I decided to test this, and it's going to be January. Let me see here. Let me get my dates right. If I'm not, it's going to be January 12th, 13th, and 14th. Now, this is a virtual healing intensive, and it's designed specifically for people who either they can't afford to come to California, they don't really want a certification, they just want help fixing their stuff. Maybe they are coaches and therapists, but one of the big problems with being a coach and a therapist a lot of times is you develop this like, I know my own stuff, and if I can't fix myself, then nobody else can fix me either. Or I don't want somebody who knows less than me trying to fix me. There's all these little biases that when you're a therapist and a healer and a coach that get you in your own way. There's a reason they say doctors make the worst patients, right? And so what I decided to do, and this is purely a test, I reserve the right to never do this again, is I'm going to take no more than 21 people, and for 3 days we're going to go through the identity by design silo. We're going to go through regression techniques. We're going to go through some techniques that you will never find in any program anywhere that I teach, at least not at the current time. And our goal is strictly to bucket list everything that you want to work on, from the least provocative to the most provocative, and step our way through the curriculums, but not in the context of you going out there and you're going to do this work on other people, but rather you're in your privacy of your home, you have a connection with me, and I'm guiding you through these processes for your benefit so that you can have the transformations that you want and need in your life. And then from there, you can decide what you want to do next. So that's the intention behind it. So if you've got any questions, please ask. Let me go. Let me scooch all the way down here. Dot Carter Dot says that sounds so beautiful. Thank you. Lily White Doves Huge says switching patterns. Leonard says Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas, Leonard. Where Weiss Coaching says, I've been using the techniques I've learned from you to guide people to resolve childhood wounds since about 4 years now. Thank you so much for everything you do for everyone, David. You're very welcome. And I'm going to continue to give. One of the things that you can't give indiscriminately. You have to give people a chance to earn their change. And that's always the line that teachers and healers and therapists and very spiritually oriented people are always walking. Because when people don't earn their change, they actually sabotage their transformation. And so we have to find ways that people can level up, but in a way that's like I was talking about someone was asking about a skill earlier. Most of the people in the self-help industry are asking you to take a quantum leap of faith. What do I mean by that? All right, you go into a seminar, and my seminars are really no different, although I try to make it a little bit easier. But you go to a seminar like Tony Robbins or Lisa Sasevich or a T. Harv Eker or any of them, and I'm not putting them down, but you go in there and they say you can have all these things, and this is you can have this, and you can have this, and you have this, and this is the price tag. Right? If you want those things, if you want access to the information that will give you the possibility of acquiring these, this is how much it costs. And some people, they could just reach into their pocket and they can whip out that credit card. And even if it's a little uncomfortable for them, they know that the universe provides and they'll get it back. But there are other people that big leap is too far, right? Rather than take that big quantum leap, they need to baby step it. That makes any kind of sense. And baby steps are different sizes for different people. And one of the reasons that people don't make those big, gigantic leaps a lot of times is because they're not convinced it'll work. They're not convinced that the programs and the processes will bear the fruit that they're promised. But even more importantly, they don't believe in themselves. They're not, that's actually the other part of that equation is a lot of times it's not the system that's the problem. Sometimes it is, but a lot of times it's the belief in their ability to actually do it. And so the idea for me behind the Healing Intensive was, I can reach more people. I am not burdened with and for me, this is a big one. I am not burdened with the duty of quality control in terms of you as a practitioner. Now, the Healing Intensive is a big leap from a lot of the way I normally do things because I'm not going to certify you in how to do these techniques from the Healing Intensive. This Healing Intensive is purely for you to come in, work with me in a very condensed, very short period of time, and work through whatever stuff we can in the time that we have, and then showing you the direction of where to go from there. But what it will do for you is it will give you experiences that will help you to make the decision of how much further you want to go and what direction do you want to take. And that's kind of where I'm about is I'm always looking for ways to reach more people, but to not just give them information. And this is the big one, I think. I don't want to give people information. That's easy. We have an internet full of that. What I want to do more than anything else is I want to give people an experience. I want to have them come into a process one way and come out on the other side of it changed in such an obvious fundamental way that they know that something was real, that it happened, and they can't go back. Right? Because if I can do that, if I can guide you through those processes, then the rest is on you. The willingness and the ability to take that next step, however big or small it might be, well, it gets easier because you're not operating from faith anymore. You're operating from a place of direct experience. We call that gnosis. And I think that's the best place to start. We live in a world of tangible stuff where weird things happen all the time. Some things we can explain, some things we can't. But the one thing that changes us always is the experience of something. And so that's always been my goal, in Planet David, no matter what we're doing, whether we're doing a webinar on influence or whether we're doing a law of attraction webinar, speed healing, energy hypnosis, trauma resolution, face reading, right? People think face reading is a bunch of shit until we read them. And then all of a sudden, holy shit, Batman, how did you know that? How could you know that, right? It's because we understand pattern and structure, right? We see the world through a different set of lenses, and that gives us access to information that most people don't have, that allows us to have experiences that most people wouldn't think are even possible for them. So that's kind of where I'm at with that. Okay, so there's a AP here says, currently going through self-mastery supercharger. What should I expect once I implement everything in my life? Buckler influence too. Okay. With self-mastery supercharger, you're going to find that a lot of the things that used to bother you simply won't anymore. Your perspectives on things that you used to think about a certain way are going to change. You're going to find that you now have the ability to be more like the people whose skills and attributes and abilities you aspire to embody. Self-mastery supercharger is one of the most powerful ways to design an identity, design a personality. You see, one of the things that is really cool and scary at the same time about this whole concept of personality and identity is we think we know who we are. And what most of us are at our core is a soul. We're a light, right? Now, again, metaphysics aside, when we're created as a bunch of cells in our mother's womb, where we come out one big blank hard drive. We don't have a personality. We don't have an identity. Personality and identity are things that we build. They're things that we learn and acquire over time. Now, do we have certain genetic predispositions to perceiving in a certain way or feeling and acting a certain way? Yeah, those are there, but those things only become active depending on the circumstances of our environment. Okay. And depending on the environment we're in will depend to what degree, smaller or greater, those tendencies are expressed. So the idea behind identity and personality is we think we're one solid sheet of identity, that we're one person, but we're more like a quilt or a mosaic of individual experiences and belief patterns and ways of thinking and behaving in certain contexts that we've gotten used to. And these identities that we move through the world in change as our environment and our context change. So, right now I'm at my mother's house in Ocala, Florida, and my sister's house in Ocala, Florida, and I'm a very different dude than when I'm jumping up and down at a seminar with my vests and all my other cool stuff and hooked on a feelings plan, right? Why? Are those things a lie? Are those things not who I am? No, those are very much a part of an identity that I put on when I am in that environment, and there are certain things that I have to accomplish. But nothing about who you are is permanent, and nothing about who you are is real in the sense that it's immutable. Our personalities, our habits, our identities are skill sets, habits that we've acquired. And one of the nice things about identity by design is it allows you to customize those identities. It allows you to customize those personalities because it steps you through the building blocks that made it in the first place. And it's an iterative process. So each time you go through that identity by design silo, you're going to come out even more different, and you're going to see the world even more differently than the last time you did. And that's how it's supposed to be. And again, and depending on what direction you want your life to go, you can use those same skill sets, those same tools and techniques and the principles that they tap into for higher and higher and higher metaphysical, spiritual, transpersonal applications is probably the best way to say it. Some of the people here on the call, on the chat tonight, Heather for one, Amelia's been around a little bit. Jax has been around for a while. Cynthia, Laura's been around, but some of these folks will tell you that the things they learned in identity by design when they first came in and they were learning it as hypnosis, they're now using these same techniques on an energetic and spiritual plane and generating tremendous transformations And some of the people here walked into some of the master level energy trainings that I attend. And because of their work in vibrational influence and vibrational healing and identity by design, they can walk in at a master level and they could keep up with the rest of the class. In some cases, they actually did these things better, right? And it's not because what we did was better, but because the principles, the building blocks of the universe that make us all up are the same things that we're dealing with. We're just using slightly different variations of tool to get there, right? But everything that we do, if you've been around for any length of time, you've heard me say that Planet David is very much a warrior-based mystery school, right? We're demon slayers. We're going to go around slaying dragons and killing demons. And we're going to start with the little ones first, and then we're going to work up to the big ones. And the demons that we fight just get bigger and bigger and bigger, sometimes literal, right? So it starts with you, but everything starts with you. It starts about making yourself as powerful and as happy and as fulfilled as humanly possible. And then taking that light that you've accumulated and showing other people how to light their own lights, right? And this is what it's about. You're no good to the world broke. You're no good to the world starved. You're no good to the world weak or hurt, right? Your ability to share and uplift people is based on how uplifted and shareable you are. And so that's what it starts with. I take the old Buddhist proverb, live half for others and half for yourself. And I flip it. I say, live half for yourself and half for others, right? If you're on an airplane and the plane's going down, or they're giving you the instructions about the air mask, do they tell you to put the mask on the child first, or do they put it on you first? Right? It's the same idea. Make yourself strong and then go out and be a light to the world. And that's what the Healing Intensive for me is about. It's about helping you get stronger, right? But nothing's free. Nothing's free. What are you willing to give up for it? The easy part is the tuition, which I think right now is like $14.97 for the 3 days. Which I get $3,000 an hour for session work. So think about it. You get 3 whole days with me. But that's only the first investment. The second investment is going to be, what do you want to give up? Are you willing to give up the anger? Are you willing to give up the hate? Are you willing to give up the I have rights, I was wronged? And just give it up. Let it go. And reclaim that energy and use it for something better. Because for every hate, every anger, every rage, every memory that you hold on to, that's a piece of your aggregate energy that can't be used for something else. And so a lot of this is about reclaiming that energy and using it to transform yourself and then empower other people. Okay, I'm going to get off my pedestal for a moment. Let's see here. Heather says, I'm excited for the Healing Intensive. I'm going to put your ass to work, Heather, just so you know. Little White Dove says, switching patterns. I don't know if that's a question or just an observation. Dot says, that sounds so beautiful. Lina says, wow, how much? Yeah, so the Healing Intensive, it's a virtual Healing Intensive. So you don't have to come to San Diego for this. You can be anywhere in the world. As long you can be in Australia, you can be in Malaysia. I don't care. As long as you're willing to get up. It's the virtual Healing Intensive. And it's $14.97 right now is our early bird. There is no link for this program at the time. And there's a reason for that, is links make things easy. And I don't want this to be easy, right? I want you to want it. So what you got to do is you got to email moss@nlppower.com or email mia@nlppower.com. You could try calling the office at 858-282-4663 and leave a message. And the moment we hit the 21 people, we're done. All right, because I want to make sure that the 21 people that I work with, first of all, there's going to be some pre-event homework I'm going to ask you to do, just so we don't have to spend an inordinate amount of time going over things that we could have done ahead of time, right? So the first 21 people to reach out to Moss through the phone or through email and get on the books, they're going to get in, and then the rest of you, Hopefully, maybe we'll do it again. I don't know. This is a test for me to see how viable the program is. If it's successful and I like the results, then we may look to do this 3-4 times a year, right? And then we'll see where that goes, right? But like I said, I don't know that I'll ever do this again. So if this is something that you think you would want to spend some time with me on, I invite you to please. Probably won't pick up the phone right now if you call, but he has the phone. So it's 858-282-4662, or you can email Moss or Mia at nlppower.com. Leave your name, contact information that you're interested in the healing intensive, and then they'll reach out to you individually. And once we hit those 21 people, that's it. Okay. Let me go back to questions. I want to get off the healing subjects for a while. Andrew says, I have 2 quick questions, David. 1, remote influence, best ways to practice defense. Okay, so practice safely solo. Okay, so if you're going to practice remote influence, again, remote influence and psychic self-defense specifically comes down to 2 basic things. How clean is your field? And how in rapport with your spirit and your soul are you? And how deep is your connection to the divine? If you're in harmony with yourself and you can access your soul star and your pole star and your 3 bodies, and you can shine the soul energy out, then you can blow a lot of things out of your system. That's like, think of it like Iron, you know how Iron Man has that little beam in his chest, and every now and then he just hits the mega switch and everything in the way is just decimated. Your soul light has the ability to do that. But entities and remote influencers can find their way into your system through an almost infinite number of ways. But the way they come in largely is through areas that you've forgotten about, areas that you haven't cleaned up, areas you haven't trained. Like, for example, one of the easiest ways to penetrate somebody's field and overshadow them is from the back, because you're always looking forward. So everything you do is in the forward hemisphere of your body. You forget you have a back, and that area is the weakest. And people's energetic fields, that's usually their weakest part. And so it's very easy for someone who understands energetic influence and who understands spirit travel and what they call not just overshadowing, but blending and merging to access the system through those weakened areas of your shell, right? But any trauma that you have, any addictions that you have, any unresolved emotional issues that you have are pathways into that system. They're chinks in your armor, and they're all leverageable. You know, if you're doing true military remote influence, then the dream state is one of your most vulnerable states, because if somebody understands remote influence the way that Buchanan was talking about it in his trainings, is it's almost like they can log you into a massive online multi-role player game, suck you into a dream world, and have you acting things out that you will actually take with you into waking world and actually do them or give information that you wouldn't normally give. So there's so many different ways to influence people. There really, really is. And so when you ask, Andrew, and I'm not trying to make light of your question, I'm not trying to make you feel stupid or anything, but when you ask the question, the best ways to practice self-defense, it comes down to the same 2 answers every time. The best 2. A, clean up your shit. And 2, connect to the divine. Right? These are the 2 most useful things. Now, once you've established that, right? Once you've gotten that, a lock on that, and you're progressing, now you can start to practice other forms of meditation techniques, other light-based techniques, clearing techniques. All these other things are going to build your armory, or your arsenal, so to speak, of counteroffensive or defensive practices, right? So the best way to practice solo is to start with the 1 through 10, pulling down the heavens, and the 3 divine invocations. Probably the best generic overall way to just build a very strong light-based radiant foundation that makes it harder and harder to influence you. But remember, the process of becoming more bulletproof energetically and spiritually speaking is the process of giving up your shit. It's the process of pulling out the pain, extracting the lessons, letting everything else go, purifying that energy, bringing it back into your system, and restoring it to the reservoir that is you. So I think what did I do here? Oh, show chat. Somehow or another, my chat got closed. Here, let me see here. I keep breaking up. I hope not. Can you have a payment plan for this? Reach out to Moss and see what can be worked out, Alex. And 123 says Demon Slayers. Booyah! I've seen some gnarly shit in my life, but there are certain things I just don't want to see. But I have a feeling it's coming. So I'm getting ready. We's coaching question. Hindsight. In hindsight, life has always given me exactly what I needed. I want to trust in that going forward, but not fully there yet. How can I let go and just trust? It's really simple. Let go and just trust. Right? Here's how I do it. I look at the situation, I do everything I can, and when I reach the point of diminishing returns, I give the rest to God. So I've done everything I know how to do. That's practical for me to do. I'm giving it to you, right? Because I think it's not about God doing it all, and I don't think it's about us doing it all. I think it's about us learning that we're not alone and that we're part of something greater than ourselves. But each of those parts has to do its share. A lot of times the hardest thing we can do is just move forward, because there's a part of us that always thinks we're not doing enough. And a lot of the times we have a little pattern that says we're doing too much, like life is too hard. Well, no. Each of us has exactly what we need, enough level of discomfort to get us to move in a certain direction. And that's what it's about. It's not about punishment. It's about motivation. Right? What's going to motivate us to make the changes that we need to make? Right? You can look at the world as one big prison where all we're here to do is be punished. Or you can think of it as one big school where different types of people need different types of motivation, and the universe will happily provide whatever that motivation is to move us in the direction that the higher powers want us to move in. But it's our choice how much we want to fight with it, how much we want to push back, how much we want to blame, right? But at the end of the day, the hardest thing is sometimes to just let it go, right? But with letting go, knowing that something is going to happen. A lot of you have heard me, you've heard my magic mantra, right? Which is what? Something will happen. And you've seen a lot of you who've been in the live trainings around Planet David have literally seen things happen out of nowhere, right? After I've said that. That for me is my trigger. Just give it to the universe. Okay, I've done what I'm supposed to do. If it's meant to be, it'll happen. If there's some deeper reason why it's not happening the way I need it to happen, something will happen and that will become apparent to me, right? It's not about the things that happen to you that determine the course of your life. It's about how you think and process and relate to the things that happen to you that determine who you become along the way, right? AA Time says, how to keep my state while interacting with people. I find I'm focusing too much on trying to keep the state that I either mess up with the interaction or vice versa and lose the state. Okay, so the idea behind having a state is knowing what you want to achieve and who do you need to be to achieve it, right? One of the things that's going to happen to you, especially when you start embarking on state control training, especially the way we do it in Planet David, is that the universe is going to give you opportunities to test just how good you think you are, right? And what's going to happen is you're going to be in a certain state and you're going to meet somebody who, for whatever reason, is just like running into a brick wall, right? And that's an opportunity for you to find out just how well you can do what you think you can do. Because there's very few people in the world who would argue that I should be one of the world's best at state control. And yet I have children, right? And you find out really, really quick how much work you need to do, especially when you're highly invested in that other person or something that you need that other person to do. The secret to state control is not being as attached to the things people say and do as you are. Right. And that's the big problem. You may notice that when people start to uh, really hone in on something, they want something, they tend to close the proxemic distance, they tend to hunch, they tend to really come in. Just like when you're watching your favorite movie, you don't watch a movie like this, you watch a movie like this, right? You'll find that people, the more invested in an interaction they become, those behaviors come out too. So the idea is physically change your state, physically change the proximity, physically change your posture and your breathing, and you'll find very, very quickly that the importance and the attachment to that interaction will change too. So on a pragmatic level, the secret is simply to create more distance, become less attached. And you can do that from the physical level by simply changing the space between you and this other person, changing the posture you're holding and changing the breathing pattern, and it'll cause a domino effect in your system that will allow you to function and have a greater range of ability over your states. Linus is asking, any place we avoid as a blind spot. Linus, I'm not sure. Are you asking about accessing points to a person? Or I'm not sure what you're asking there, sweetie. Andrew, this is what I've been watching and training. I thought I said there was no difference, so I had to, okay. So the chosen one is asking, from the experience on reframing people, is there a same set of patterns you always use that have the most success in removing limiting beliefs for other people and yourself? I tend to start with there's like 14 that I teach. Classic hypnotic NLP based patterns for reframing beliefs. There's 14 that I teach. My first one is always what we call a redefine. It's not that it's X, it's that it's Y. The other one that I find tends to be really liberating is what we call the hierarchy of criteria pattern. And when you do the hierarchy of criteria pattern, you're simply asking a question, which is more important, believing this with this outcome and getting this outcome, or believing this and having this outcome instead. And where one of them is the current limiting belief and the ramifications of that, or what you'd like to believe that empowers you. So if someone says, I just can't control my eating. If I were to redefine that, I might say, well, maybe it's not that you can't control your eating. It's maybe the fact that you're in an environment where people are encouraging you to eat foods that you normally wouldn't pay attention to if you were around other people. So it's not really that you can't control your eating. It's that you're in an environment that's overwhelming you and taking that control away from you. Right? Or it could be, you could also say, well, maybe it's not that you can't control your eating. It's that the foods that you're eating are overriding your body's natural ability to control itself. But if you just change what foods you're eating, you would gain that control back because now you'd actually have access to that mechanism instead of it being overridden. Is that possible? Right? Just the act of asking those questions causes your worldview to change and open up, and it frees your mind to entertain other possibilities that before were locked into one narrow way of thinking. Now, if I were going to use a hierarchy of criteria problem, again with the overeating is, well, which is more important to you, believing that you have absolutely no control over how much you eat and what you eat, and staying stuck and gaining weight and feeling and hating yourself, or experimenting with new and innovative ways to have fun with dieting or fun with changing how you eat and who you eat with, so that you can enjoy more power and choice in your world, which is going to give you a better outcome. Right? It's a simple process, but just the act of making that statement says, well, yeah, I never thought about it like that. And all of a sudden, what was once a very narrow, small way of thinking about how the world is or what's possible for you expands. And that's what true reframings of beliefs and the renegade reframing protocols are designed to do. In NLP, our job is not to take away people's choices. Our job is to give them a wider, more bountiful, abundant map of the world that is filled with lots of choices that lead to better outcomes. But we create in our own mind a map of how the world is, what's possible for us and what isn't. And they're largely arbitrary. We don't realize how arbitrary they truly are. But they're basically just decisions about the way the world is or should be based on the experiences we've had and what the information that we had at the time. But just asking those questions and using those patterns opens up that mental map of how the world could be or should be or is supposed to be, and allows you to take different perspectives on things. And that many times makes all the difference in the world. Let's see here. Christian De Leon says, "Hey, I was just wondering if you were religious, like you are a Christian. Sorry if that's. I am. I am a student of mystical traditions. So I am a Christian mystic. I am a Buddhist mystic. I am a Taoist mystic. I'm a Jewish mystic. Um, and one of the things that you'll discover is that when you get behind closed doors and you are initiated into the mysteries, is that everybody's talking about the same thing. And in many cases, they're using the same techniques to get there. They're just using different names for different aspects of the divine. So I'm not religious, but I am highly spiritual and mystical. So I'm more of a wizard than I am a saint. So I'll let you go there. I'll let you figure that out. Wholeness and balanced vibrations to you and the family. Thank you, Corey. Appreciate that. Same to you and yours. Andrew says, Merry Christmas. Bless you and yours, David. Thanks for taking the time on my questions. My pleasure. Alex is saying, not to make this complicated, do we make it harder than it is? Yes, more often than not. You mentioned connect to God, get rid of our crap. In your experience, can a lot of people do that when someone tells them that? There are so many techniques to get there. And the technique you use depends largely on where you're at in terms of your understanding of yourself and the universe and the cosmology that you embrace. And what resonates with you most specifically on an individual basis. So, for example, I have a series of techniques called the transformational triad: color breathing, magic frame, energy spinning. These things will clean like a white tornado. If I go to some of my Taoist traditions, you'll have something called the old man in the tide pool exercise, which is about clearing out grief and anger in the lungs and things of that nature. It's a longer, energetic exercise. In the Buddhist traditions, you'll have things like pulling out the pain meditation, which is literally almost like our magic frame, where you open a vortex in a place in your body where all your crap is, and like a vacuum pulling all that stuff out. And as it pulls itself out, it separates into pure energy and then darker energy with lessons attached to them. And then the pure energy gets recycled and comes back into your body. The impure energy with the lessons attached gets sent up to the divine. And as it floats up into the divine energy begins to emanate and irradiate that energy, breaking it up, dissolving it, repurifying it. And then that energy and the lessons that are connected to it is recycled back into your reservoir. And you'll find your trauma starting to release. Another one that in the more advanced Buddhist system is where you can this one's really violent. It's where you take all of your old versions of yourself, all of your old memories, and you chop their heads off. It's a very aggressive, symbolic way of killing those younger aspects of yourself that have been keeping you in suffering, right? And when you kill those memories, then those energy packets are released. The pure energy comes back to you. The memories are let go. In the Christian mystical traditions, you'll have what we call the forgiveness prayer. You'll also do a version of pulling out the pain, the rings of light meditation, past, present, future meditation. There a lot of them are very, very similar mechanical processes, and some people have tremendous success with pulling out the pain. Some people have tremendous success with the old man in the tide pool, or dry crying, or what's the other one I'm thinking about? Beating the bag, right? Which are also analogous to some of the trainings that we do in like advanced regression and things like that, right? There'll be practices in regression technique, for example. You have what we call chair therapy, where you bring somebody who's hurt you and you put them in a chair and you have this conversation with them. Deathbed therapy, same way in regression. But you know what? The Christian systems have that too, where you imagine the spirit of the person that wronged you sitting in a chair, and you talk to their higher self or their spirit, and you get that same kind of resolution. right? So there's many, many different ways to go about these cleansing and purging and purifying processes. The idea is have somebody who can teach them to you, do the exercises, and figure out of the palette of exercises that you have access to, which ones really resonate with you, which ones really give you this sense of transformation and purification, right? Until you get a choice, you work with what you have. But if you stay on the path, more things will come your way. Insights and nuances and quickenings will come your way, and you'll be able to make that change faster. But you have to stay on the path, right? So again, Planet David is a great place to start. There are also lots of other good people out there who have things that work. Like a lot of people love EFT. I'm not a big fan, never have been. Done it many times, never seen an EFT session perform better than a spinning or a transformational triad session. But there are people out there who have changed their life from tapping, right? TFT, same thing. Reconnection is another one. Some people have transformed from Reiki, right? Some people pranic healing, right? When you're on the path, you're not married to one particular way necessarily. When you're a mystic, you're a pragmatist. You're looking for something that works. Think of it like spiritual Jeet Kune Do, right? And that's really what it's about. H says, I love you so much. I love you back. H says, you have changed my life. I swear I love you and I love watching your videos. Thank you so much for that. I appreciate you. Satyrus, Merry Christmas, Dr. David. How would you frame answering a question of financial losses asked by your lawyer in building up your case over initially going from one career path and ending up in another? How would I frame it? Well, the first thing I'd have to know is what's the context? What are you trying to, what's your outcome and what's your context? Right? Okay, Liam says brain blast after brain blast tonight, or rather, thank you for the downloads tonight. I needed to be here for the next level. Here I come. All right. Jesus Castaneda, Merry Christmas, David. M123, love that wizard. EB Tone says, I am Jay. Okay. And Ra, techniques are fine. However, I don't rely on them. Every moment is new, and so is my approach. Other people seem to get on without techniques. I don't lose sight of that either. Again, everybody's different. And that's one of the big things that we have to understand is that we're all different, but not that much. But the differences can be important, right? The way I go through the world is that I look at things and I look at what's the same, and then I really examine what's different, and then I ask why. Is what they're doing differently what makes them so good at achieving the specific result that they specialize in, right? Because I have to make sure that I'm seeing the same thing. So I examine what's the same, but if it's mechanically it's the same, or they're, sometimes people add extra steps they don't need, but is it 80% the same? And then it's good enough, right? As I like to say, good enough. Perfection is never good enough, or perfectionism is never good enough, but good enough is always good enough. So that's kind of where I go. Leonard Mertz, how to stop worrying about what other people think of you. Learn to love yourself more. And this has been a hard one for me. And I think it's probably going to be a hard one for anyone who regularly sits in front of a video camera and talks to a lot of people, telling people what they think and hoping that they're going to like it. But the biggest thing I find is that we turn to the approval of others to fill the hole inside of ourselves. And the more we go about filling that hole from within, the easier it is to stop worrying so much about what other people think. Now, I don't think it's, and again, I'm not a saint yet. I'm not a Buddha yet. I'm not a bodhisattva yet. Do I ever think it's completely to the other degree where you don't care ever what other people think. I don't think that's a practical way to live in the world. But I think also that when you reach a certain level of how you see the world and how you perceive what we think of as reality, you start to see inside of where people are coming from when they say the things they say. And when you perceive people from that place, what they say has less and less and less power to negatively affect you. I think you still care what other people think, but I think it starts to become more of, I care about how this person thinks because I need to know how to help them. How can I reach them? More so than making it about you. And I think that's a process. I don't think, I mean, it's a destination, of course, it's something but I think it's something that comes about through doing the work. Certainly, I didn't have that perspective 20 years ago. It's something I evolved to because I worked on me. And sometimes I worked on me very, very reluctantly, right? But I find as I start to understand myself better and better and better, and I look at the places inside of myself that I have never wanted to look at because I was terrified of what I would find or what I would feel. And I start to resolve those things in myself, and I truly begin to appreciate the soul that I am. And I clear my shit. I start to perceive other people's shit differently. I start to perceive when they speak, I see the hurt that they're speaking from. And because I perceive that the way I would normally respond to someone who's being aggressive or belligerent or like slanderous or whatever, or trollish, right? I don't take the same perspective. It doesn't affect me the same. And so I think once again, it's not that we, completely disregard people, but I think as we clear up the shit inside of ourselves, the chinks in our armor, we can now perceive the world around us and the people around us and the souls around us much more clearly. And we can respond from that clearer perception, which I think makes all the difference. Jesus is asking, hold on a second. Okay. D is asking, what is love? Oh, I wish I knew. But even I think if I remember correctly, the Greeks had like 5 or 6 different words for love. So I think there's different kinds of love. So when you ask, I mean, in what context, right? But love is something we do. It's an action that we take or a process that we engage in. Could it be a vibrational frequency that we tap into that has certain attributes connected to it? For sure. I think that's definitely something connected to that principle of love as opposed to the act of love or the process of love. I think love means different things to different people, but at the end of the day, I think it's really about acceptance and caring and doing doing the right thing based on the situation, right? What is the benefit for both people, whatever, but again, are you talking about agape love, which is like this all-encompassing, universal love? Is it romantic love, eros? It gets, again, when we look at one of these words, we have to really say, okay, well, what's the context? What's the situation? What is love? I don't know. Right? Honestly. New Being says, questions. Do we kill memories automatically as a coping mechanism? Do these memories get stored in our bodies? If so, is it important to bring up the emotions of the memories to get rid of? Okay, so here's after analyzing a lot of the mystical practices in Taoism, Buddhism, Christian mysticism, medical Qigong, there's a meta process that they're all using. And so the first thing they're going to do is they're going to provoke the tissues. What does that mean? It means that they're going to give you a breathing and movement and imaginative practice that is designed to compress and expand a particular region of the body. Because you're working the mind, you're working the breath and the physical body, you're stimulating the spirit body, the energy body, and the physical body. The particular exercises that you're doing are going to push energy in and through areas that have an accumulation of stagnant energy, which is basically memories that are locked in place. It's going to provoke those tissues. And as those tissues get provoked, emotions and feelings and memories are going to start to bubble up. Okay. Embedded within each of those memories is an emotional charge, right? Sadness, anger, grief, rage, despair, hopelessness, jealousy, envy, whatever. But as the memory comes up, there's going to be a body feeling. There's going to be an emotional feeling connected to that. We want to vent that. We want to get that out of the body. Then what we need to do, so we're going to provoke the tissues. We're going to release the emotional charge. Now what we need to do is we need to revisit the story embedded in those memories, and we need to change it. We need to either kill it completely or add resources to the story that changes the story. So now it's something that we can process. It's no longer generating the emotions. Then what we need to do is we need to reframe the experience. And what does that mean? Well, if I've done my work, I've provoked the tissue, the memory comes up, I go into the memory, I change the content, the structure, or the vibrational frequency that's holding that memory together, and I've dissipated the emotional charge. Now, when I replay that memory, do I think about it the same way I did before that, or has it changed? In other words, has my perspective on it changed? And is the emotional charge still there? If the answer is I can't think about it the same way I used to, the emotion is gone, I've now transformed that experience. So the basic process is to provoke the tissue, vent the emotional charge, reprocess the memory, reframe it, and transform the experience. Okay? And that's how you do it. And one of the ways that you know that you've effectively changed that process is when you revisit the memory. Hey, can you even remember it at all? A lot of times when people do some of these practices, they can't even remember the face. So they knew they were married once, but they can't remember the face of their ex-wife. Why? Because it's not, they've released it all. It's no longer scarring them mentally, physically, or emotionally. If they go back, can they recall specific memories? Of course, if they try, they can, but that charge isn't there anymore. So provoke the tissue, vent the energy, reprocess the experience, reframe the event, transform the energy, right? And so if you look at everything that's being done in all of these traditional classical thousands of year old practices, that's the meta process or meta procedure of what's going on. The best part is through hypnosis, we can do this really fast, much faster in many cases than some of the classical traditional ways of approaching it, because they're starting with the body up, or they're doing a general negativity clearing, which interestingly starts with the body feeling, right? But a lot of times, a lot of these generic practices that they're given, there's nothing specific that they're targeting. So hypnosis gives an NLP and a holographic memory resolution gives us a very specific, more targeted way of finding the issues we need to clear and removing them very, very quickly. So, so when we say, do we kill memories? Some cases we do, right? Some of the more aggressive Buddhist mystical practices was this idea that if you have a memory of being wronged by somebody and you go back and you revisit that memory, the first person in that memory you need to kill is you. Because you're the one that's creating all the suffering. You're the one that's holding on to those feelings of being hurt, of the injustice, of the persecution. Yes, there's avatars of other people in that memory, but you're the one generating those feelings, but you're projecting that it's their fault. But that's a memory. It's not the event, because that's gone. So the person hurting you the most is you, because you're holding on to the righteous indignation, the persecution, the betrayal, whatever it is. And so the biggest offender in that context is you. And that's who gets to die first. right? So when you see pictures of in the Vedic systems or the Buddhist or Tibetan iconography, and you see all these deities, and they have these necklace of skulls, and they're standing on a pile of skulls. You need to understand what that means. Each of those skulls represents a memory or an identity that they killed of themselves to become a more enlightened being. That's the symbolism, right? Now, again, a lot of us aren't ready for that big picture leap, giving up all of our memories and giving up all of the trials, the tribulations, and the persecutions and the injustices, right? But that's where a lot of this takes you. And as you give those things up, grudgingly or not, the way you experience your world changes, right? So the answers to these questions is, do the memories get stored in your bodies? 100%. Is it important to bring the memories up? 100%. And do we kill memories? Yes. But do we always need to kill memories? No. Sometimes we can just change the story and the energy will process out in a healthy way, and it's gone. There's different levels of intervention based on where you're at. So Zayed Idris, $2. Thank you. I love you. Please do more lives like this. I will do as much as I can. Heather Ender says, much less painfully too. I think she's talking about our approaches to getting shit done, because she's been around Planet David for a while. In fact, Heather knows firsthand what it's like to be trained by me, because her day 5 of her training, she had to do a real session on a real human being who just happened to wander into the classroom, and she did it very, very successfully, and we've been testing her ever since. M123 says, Doctor, do we take all of our memories with us on the other side? Yes. And let me explain that. Your spirit body, your soul star, takes with it, and your earth star take with it the recording of your life. And so when you sit, based on what my teachers told me, when you're in front of this divine counselor, whatever it is, in the blink of an eye, they review your entire life as if they'd lived it, and they understand it better than you do many times, right? So the recording of that is unclear to me, whether the trauma, the body feelings of that go with you or not, but the story of your life, how you lived it, that's part of your spirit body. So that goes with you when you drop the physical form. I was told, and again, this is what we call an untested truth or an unchallenged truth. I was taught by my teacher that the book Journey of Souls best expresses what the mystics have been teaching about how things happen in the spirit world after you drop the body. They, according to my teachers, that research by that person, Michael Newton, I think it was, he got it the closest of what the mystics are actually teaching about the way things happen when we drop the body. So I think that's probably worth a good look at, right? Let's see. New Being says, thank you very much for your reply and explanation. Happy. Jesse Mission, hello, Dr. David. Happy holidays to you and your family. Happy holidays to you too. Can back pain be from psychic attacks? Live like anesthesia? Yes. Jesse says through DNA. Of course. Absolutely. Many different ways that these things can get passed down to us. And none of it's random, in my opinion. Alex Mueller says, I actually feel better listening tonight. You were a good match. I tried Gary Null in New York City, involved in Buddhist philosophy and health and nutrition. Excellent. Seth, that's okay. That's a different conversation. I got a question. Any new image cycling stories? There was one. I can't remember it now. Actually, the past couple weeks, I've had some interesting things happen that are law of attraction based, but they're slipping my mind. Remind me if post that question in the comments section, and if I remember the stories, I'll type them in the chat. I know there's been a couple, but I can't remember them off the top of my head right now. Okay. Well, I sincerely hope you guys are having a great Christmas. It's been a wonderful hours. How long have I been on? Give or take. Um, I don't even know. But I hope you all had a great Christmas or a happy Hanukkah. I think my girls were saying Kwanzaa begins tomorrow. I have no idea about any of that stuff. Oh, wait, special entity says, hey, David, I'm curious about your thoughts on the mind-body connection and especially a tight jaw and hips. Also, is there any way to address or integrate anxious stomach feelings and nausea? Start with the transformational triad: energy healing, color breathing, magic frame. And then after that, we can talk about other things. I think you'll find that if you have any access to our teachings on the 6 dynamics of an unconscious response and psychoenergetic or body-centered energy psychotherapy, like the somatic search engine concepts, somatic address, those kinds of things, those things I think will help you to unpack what's going on in your jaw, in your stomach, things of that nature. There's a lot of different approaches that we could take on that. And so I'm not trying to dodge your question. It's just that the answers for it are so broad. And so we have to start somewhere. So we start with what we know works. So Zayed Adris says, Doctor, why don't I feel the same excitement and motivation I did as a kid? Is it a limiting belief? Is it limiting belief or fear? What courses do you recommend for me? Okay. So first and foremost, when we feel things as a child, we are feeling things in a very raw, unfiltered, associated way. As we go through life experiences, we start to layer things on top, right? We become progressively more insulated or dissociated. If we were to regress you to, if we were to do a full regression on you and regress you to those moments as a child, much of those feelings would come back pretty much at the same level because we're moving the filters out of the way. As we go through different types of traumas and boundary violations and things like that, our body starts to build filters between true, deep level, intense feelings and everything else. In its effort to protect us from the bad feelings, it also tends to buffer the good feelings as well. This is why many people who've gone through a lot of trauma or a lot of disappointment and hurt in their lives, they lose their ability to feel joy, even in a good situation. Not because they can't experience joy, it's because they've built up so much armor against feeling in general that even if there's a roaring bonfire inside, there's so many layers of concrete between that bonfire and the outside that the outside of the room feels lukewarm. And so we have to start peeling back those layers. Can trauma be one of the reasons that we can't experience that joy? Yes. Could it be the culture that we grew up in telling us that it's not okay to express certain feelings or have certain feelings a certain way? Absolutely. Could it be that you're actually trying to experience something while at the same time on the outside of it trying to measure it, which creates what we call smart person syndrome, which is a lack of absorption in the state process or experience? Could it be one of these or all of these or a combination? Yes. Right? Everything starts with what is it you want, or what's the problem that you're having? What do you want instead? Where in your body do you feel it? How do I unpack it? And how do I attack it? How do I go in, find out where the problem is, and start unpeeling those onion layers, right? None of you are broken. And I want to emphasize this from the bottom of my heart to the depths of my soul. None of you, I don't care what your life is like. I don't care what's happened to you in your life. None of you are broken. Okay? You are the way you are, not because of the things that happened to you, but because of the way you're relating to the way you recorded the things that happened to you. Okay? You created it, not the event that happened, but the recording of the event. Because you created it, you have the ability to change it, and you have permission to do that. Right? And we're all at different layers of this self-reclamation process. But a lot of times what happens is, because of the systems the universe put in place to help us survive those moments, to survive those situations, that allowed those recordings to be created in the first place. Kind of like, how many of you guys, by show of hands in the chat, ever saw the original Ghostbusters movie? You guys remember that? If you have, type it in the chat. Okay. You guys remember after they put the ghost in the trap, when the trap was closed and the ghost was in it, the little light went on, right? Well, I want you to think about that little light blinking every time you go through an experience and you survive it. Little trap is created. It grabs the memory, the ghost of those memories, a ghost of that experience, sort of thing. And that's actually a pretty good way to think of it. The event that you're dealing with, or the problem that you're dealing with, isn't the event. It's the ghost of the event. And it's a little trap. And it's locked somewhere in the big trap that is your body. And every now and then, you're moving through the world and you see something or you hear something or you find yourself in an environment that is in some way similar to the ghost of that event you're carrying around inside of you. And the light flashes. And that light flash is the equivalent of a body feeling. Kind of like the check engine light on your dashboard. Now, if you're driving down the road and your check engine light goes on, aside from the initial heart attack, oh shit, something's wrong with my car, you don't go rushing off to the dealership or the garage to get the light fixed, right? Why? Because it's not the light that's the problem. The light is a signal. The light is a sign that there's something else in the vehicle that needs looking after, that needs attending to. And so as we're moving through the world and we're having these experiences and we're having these flashbacks and these moments of emotion or these moments of not being able to feel an emotion, they're like the little check engine light on your dashboard. It doesn't mean you're broken. It's an indicator that the systems that the universe put in place to help you survive and move through experiences that would have overwhelmed you did their job. And now you just need to go get the oil changed or the software updated or the delete the old files, right? That's all it means. But if you don't understand that's part of being a part of the human experience, then you start having all these manifestations of symptoms and thoughts and feelings and ideas. You know, oh, there's something wrong with me. No, in most cases, not so much. What makes it wrong is the story that you attach to the feelings. It's the narrative that you assign to the experiences, which you created in the first place, right? And think about it. What's a more empowering way to think? That these feelings I'm having are signs that there's something in my body that my body's ready to get rid of, and I just need to go find the mechanic that can do that. Or something's wrong with me and my life is going to be shit and I'm going to be this way forever. Right? It's a choice. Right? I think it was Tony Robbins. Might have been one of Tony Robbins' mentors who said, whether you believe you can or you believe you can't, you're right. Now, I don't know how much I actually believe that, but I do know this, is that the story that you attach to anything can empower you or disempower you. It can give you more access to resources or take them away. But after sitting in a room with people for 15, 16, 20 years, looking into their hearts and hearing every form of nastiness that can happen to a human, I can tell you this: people are not the way they are because of the things that happen to them. They are not the way they are because of the things they're expressing. They're the way they are because of the way they recorded the things that happened to them and the way that they have been relating to those recordings. Now, what does that mean? Well, are they expressing what they're feeling or are they denying it? Are they repressing what they're feelings or are they talking about it? Are they fighting with their feelings, fighting with those memories? Are they accepting what happened and letting it process out? Or are they stuffing it down and trying to distract themselves from it? Those are all ways of relating to the memories. If you want to heal, you got to give it up. And that's a journey, not a destination. But none of you are broken. right? There's nothing wrong with you. You may be doing some fucked up shit, but that's not you. That's just something you're doing. And you can always change what you're doing. Okay, let's see here. Oh my God. So welcome Zaid Idris as a new gold member. Let's see here. Interpretation filters. Okay, that makes sense, Dr. David. Very insightful. Well, thank you, Jesse. Cobra, Viper, Seth, they know themselves. I can hypnotize them for further rapport. That's a great visualization, the trap ghost of the event. Love it. Yep. Blue, any tips for communication over text? Had great success with Echo, Three Magic Questions, and real life conversations, but not so much with chats and emails. It feels like an interview. You're probably not softening enough, and you're not getting them to tell you enough stories. So think about when you're doing Three Magic Questions to soften more, and then have them tell you a story. Look at the words they use to tell their story. Find an experience in your life that is very similar to what they said and use their words to tell it, and then ask other questions. And I think you'll find that the conversations get a lot more interactive. We have met the enemy and it is us. Okay. So Brick is asking, what do I know about fire worship and giving it a personality like deity worship? Okay, so we got to watch this watch out when we talk about this word worship. When we look at fire and the fire principle, if we're doing fire magic and deity magic, it's not a question of worship in the sense of this. It's more a veneration and a reverence and a contemplation and an absorption in the energy and the principle and the intelligence that governs it. It's about building a rapport bridge made of love and adoration and respect and reverence, but it's not worship in the sense of this thing is all powerful and it's higher than you. So we have to watch out when we start looking at words like worship, right? I worship. It was interesting in all the mystical traditions that I've been lucky enough to practice and things like that. The only place that people worship is in religion. And that's where you come in and you do obeisance to your symbol of whatever deity, and you try to garner their favor. And that's a very religious practice, right? But in the mystical traditions that I've been exposed to, that idea of worship, I've never once heard that term worship used. It's always been about surrendering and uniting and joining and embodying and dissolving, becoming one with. So I will be very careful. This is my NLP ishness coming out. I'll be very careful with that. What word that word worship. Okay, I would say, and again, this is purely David talking. That the word worship is more of one of, again, adulation, adoration, praise, which I think has its place, but I think those come from the energy of gratitude and contemplation and understanding, as opposed to when I think of people just praying at an altar, right? So, but again, just the nuances of that word worship, the meta associations I have with it, because in all the traditions I practice, the only time I see anybody worshiping is at a regular church, synagogue, or temple service. But it's not that it's not the same. It's not. It's a very different experience. Can you release trauma by expressing emotions and not knowing what it's attracted to? Yes. All right. Well, I've been on almost 2 hours now. So I hope you guys have enjoyed our little time together. Remember, if you haven't already reached out to Moss or Mia and you want to be part of the Healing Intensive on January 12th, 13th, and 14th, please reach out. For those of you who have VIP tickets and are plan on attending Killer Influence, please also reach out to Moss and me and let them know that you're coming. I need to know how many people are coming so I have the venue already rented, but I need to know if I need a bigger room. And the sooner I let the venue know that, the better. So let's see. How to help someone emotionally by remote healing. And what's your background? I don't know for sure what techniques and tools you have at your disposal for that. Can you do it? Yes. But depending on what your background is, there are techniques that may not be appropriate for you. Lottie's asking, we can't know another's it's like dreaming home. Okay. I said, okay. All right. Well, anyway, thank you all. And I hate leaving questions unanswered, but if I don't make it cut, we'll be here all night. Anyway, good night. God. If you like this video, if you enjoyed it, please like and share. Please post it everywhere. Have an amazing, happy holiday weekend. And I will see you guys next. For those of you who are paid members, we have an AMA coming up towards the end of the month. January 28th, we'll be having our next webinar, Defense Against the Dark Arts. So this will be about protecting yourself against the dark arts of persuasion and manipulation. See what else. And of course, the Healing Intensive, right? All right. You guys have a great Christmas. We'll talk to you soon. Take care. God bless.